atomic batteries to power. Turbines to speed.
Roger. Ready to move out.
You ever dance with the devil in the pale moonlight?
This town needs an enema.
Riddle me this, riddle me that. Who's afraid of the big black bat?
When Gotham is ashes, you have my permission to die.
Gotham! This is your liberation.
My mother warned me about getting into cars with strange men.
This isn't a car.
20 years in Gotham. How many good guys are left? How many stayed that way? He has the power to wipe out the entire human race.
Tell me, do you bleed? You will.
I want you to tell all your friends about me.
What are you?
He's a silent guardian. A watchful protector. A dark knight.
I'm Batman.
Let the games begin.
Welcome to the Batman on Film podcast. Here are your hosts, Bill, Jett, Ramey, and Rick Shew.
Hey now, welcome to the Batman on Film podcast. This is it's kind of an emergency podcast. No really big news, but we had planned to take the weekend off and not have to worry about getting up early on a Saturday or Sunday morning this weekend to do a podcast. And honestly, I needed a little break from doing it and then doing the editing. But something came up over the weekend that I thought was at least somewhat interesting and worth talking about briefly here. So this is going to be kind of a short podcast with just me and Rick. I think Justin went ahead and went on a little mini vacation, and I'm sure Ryan has something to do. I don't want to get those guys after I told them to take the weekend off, and I'm sure they make plans. Anyway.
And they're in different time zones, too. I know at least Justin is.
Well, Justin's in California. Oh, hey, Rick, how you doing? Didn't introduce you yet. Here's my co-host, Rick. Rick, how's it going up in the DFW?
We just had a really nice Cowboy victory, right?
Oh, yeah.
I'll take it.
Yeah, preseason or not.
Preseason or not.
Offense looked good.
Romo looked great.
Yes. So did Dak Prescott, but this is not a sports podcast, but don't get me started. I can ramble on and on and on. So anyway, what I want to talk about was, well, Rick, we discussed it a little bit before we started recording. What is it we're going to talk about? Go ahead and introduce our topic.
Well, essentially, as all of us have agreed on, whether we liked BVS or not, or Suicide Squad or not, we've all really, one of the cohesive messages that we like Ben Affleck as Batman, Bruce Wayne, and we all being like DCU, and then for that matter, mainstream fans that I talk to, everybody's excited about Ben Affleck doing a solo Bat film, particularly since he's directing it. The conversation takes on a whole new life when you bring that up and you start talking about it, especially from his directorial accomplishments. However, there's been a setback in this department. Now, we'll discuss whether or not it's really a setback or not. We're going to give some educated analysis on this. But essentially, the original release date for this was in 2018. And like Bill and I were just talking about off mic.
Well, let's be fair here. It's never been confirmed and never been an announcement when the release date. There were a lot of outlets assuming and making, even reporting that Warner Brothers had planned on releasing it in 2018.
This is true. With that said, it wasn't that far-fetched in the sense of how fast these things are happening. In other words, we had BVS, and immediately after we got Suicide Squad, Wonder Woman's around the corner, Justice League promos are out. So to say that 2018 on the surface sounds like, well, okay, that I guess they're moving full steam ahead. It's possible, but like Bill and I were talking about off camera just now, off mic, it certainly wasn't something that he and I necessarily thought was in the realm of possibility just by virtue of logistics and time and scheduling. But now we have an announcement that it looks like Ben Affleck has more or less officially announced his next project that he's going to direct, and it's not Batman.
No, it is a project. It's actually a remake of the film Witness for the Prosecution, but actually it's based on an Agatha Christie short story. So I don't know how much of a remake it is. It's just another adaptation of that short story. And he's going to be doing this for 20th Century Fox and not Warner Brothers, which I wouldn't read too much into that because Chris Nolan is his home base is at Warner Brothers, and what was Interstellar was a Paramount release, a Paramount produced film, even though they were working with Warner Brothers. Anyway, I wouldn't read too much into the fact he's working for Fox. Warner Brothers is still very much into the Ben Affleck business and wants to stay in the Ben Affleck business. But I've never thought the 2018 release date was viable, because for a film that big, a Batman film, that's a 2-year project for a director. It's a 2-year project, and yes, he's been working on the screenplay already, but still, he's going to be working on Justice League for the rest of the year, and for that film to be ready for 2018 and be properly ready for a release in 2018, he'd have to go to work on it like in early 2017, next year, and that's just not going to happen, especially now we have this report that he's going to be doing this film for Fox. So, Rick, what's your thoughts on the whole deal?
Well, if I could, possibly crawl inside his head, he's probably wanting a break from all of this.
Yes, absolutely.
A creative break also. Let's just say that all these films had warm welcomings from critics and mainstream audiences. I think he still just want a break. These films are exhausting. Him being in that damn suit 14 hours a day is probably quite miserable. I don't care how much money he's making. He's already a multimillionaire, right? It's all relative. But, with that said, and I'm probably going to piss some people off by saying this, I'm a little concerned. And again, I almost hesitate to say this because I understand why he's doing it. It makes sense. 2018 for this film probably wasn't realistic anyway. But at the same time, Bill, let's say Justice League comes out, right? We're about to get into the Suicide Squad numbers in a moment, just kind of briefly touch upon that. But look, guys, if it does 600 million, 700 million, 800 million, that's great. I hope it does. I really, truly do. But at the end of the day, there's still no mainstream excitement for this film in the regards of people really caring about this extended universe from a cinematic standpoint beyond just the fan base, right? It's not. These films, I'm sorry, there's a precedent set that these films should be, just shy of 1 billion or north of 1 billion when you have marquee characters in them, especially characters like Batman. That's kind of where Nolan set the bar, and then the Marvel films have followed suit, right? So if, for instance, let's say that Suicide Squad wraps at 650, 700, okay? That's not terrible. It's certainly not a bomb at the box office.
Worldwide?
Worldwide.
That's what they want. For that film, yes.
Okay.
600 million plus worldwide, and that would be a success to them. I don't think Suicide Squad, Rick, is something they were ever expecting, or anyone that was expecting to be a $1 billion film.
Well, yeah, I understand that.
Okay.
Let's
hold on 1 second.
Okay.
But the other two DCU films were expected. Man of Steel was expected to near $1 billion worldwide, maybe not cross it, but get to, cross the $900 million barrier, somewhere around there. And clearly, there's no ifs, ands, or buts about it. Batman v Superman was expected to do $1 billion plus worldwide, and those two films did not. Let's just revisit the fact that it was Man of Steel, quote unquote, underperforming, that caused this whole chain reaction. This
to put Batman in the sequel.
Yeah, reactionary.
It was the catalyst to have Batman in the film.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Yes, and changed the whole course of what Man of Steel was intended to do, which was be Superman's Batman Begins. So it changed that. So yes, those first two films were hoped to be $1 billion. If again, Man of Steel nearing it, BVS crossing that barrier. Suicide Squad, I think, and I know that the expectation was a little lower, but again, you have a film that was not reviewed very well, overwhelmingly, and was and it's frankly lukewarm amongst the mainstream audience. So go ahead with your point, but I get what you're saying here. The films have underperformed. That's the bottom line.
Yeah, right? That's the bottom line. Whether it's at the box office and most importantly with critics, which ultimately is not necessarily always 100% synonymous, but when you're talking about as low grades as these films have had, this stuff sort of manifests, right? It is not, no one is excited about this extended universe other than the fans of the universe. And we're not the people that can carry this. You know, think about it if this was like college football and all we relied on for our favorite college football team were people that actually graduated from that college, and that's it. Think about the decrease in like how many people would be at a particular game or buy merchandise. It would sink the business model, right? That's sort of like how I view this, is that sure, the fans, us, we're there thick and thin. They'll put 2 hours of static up and call it Batman v Superman v Wonder Woman meets and has coffee with Iron Man. We'll go see it. But the point is there's an issue with these films. Here's my concern, okay? I'm going to try to bring this back around full circle here. My coffee's just kicking in, so I'm going to be cohesive. So now we have Justice League coming out. If Justice League comes out, Wonder Woman comes out, and it's critically smashed and underperforms, and it very well might. I hope it doesn't. I don't think it will, but I didn't think so about the last two either. And then let's say Justice League's the same thing. Here's the $1 million question: is Affleck holding off in some capacity to see the results of maybe these next two outings? And if these two perform like the previous three, or underperform, however you want to put it in perspective, will he do a solo Bat film?
Well, that's a good question. It's not. I think a lot of the question that people will propose about this topic is, will Warner Brothers go ahead with the solo Batman film? I would say yes, absolutely. But your spin is much more interesting and much more worth talking about. Is, will he want to do it? Will he want to do it? You know?
He is at this point in his career, man. He is a critically acclaimed, accomplished director, actor, and I can only imagine, first of all, as a person who tried to be a professional actor for, 35-40% of their life, it's your dream is just to work. Now, I can imagine once you get there and you're an actual working actor, you can say to somebody, "Yeah, I'm an actor." "Oh, really? Well, where do you wait tables?" No, actually, F you, I'm an actor, right? Well, yeah, right. And so he's been long there, and now he's an artist. Now he is a creative tour de force. And that is a big deal to someone who has his intellect and has his ability. And this has to take a toll on him creatively, right? At some point. And if these films are bashed, he may have to say, "You know what, I'm walking away." Because too bad we can't just reboot Batman with me in it and start all over. But, he was hesitant to go into this because of his Daredevil stigma. And no matter how much, fans, us, praise him online and say, well, he's great, this, in spite of the fact that, everything else sucks, or everything else is lackluster, or everything else isn't quite up to par, wherever you particularly stand, I'm more of the latter. But that's going to take a toll on him, man. And I just don't know if he's going to have what's the word, man, the desire to do it. I don't want to read too much into this, Bill, because there's nothing more annoying than fan sides.
No, this is
this is real. I think this is a legitimate. I think this is
it's a conversation that needs to be.
It's prudent.
This
is prudent analysis. It really is.
What we have to hope for, and I know you're hoping for it, and I'm hoping for it for sure, is that Wonder Woman has to do well. It has to have better reviews than these other three have gotten. And I know I tend to, dismiss critics at times and so forth, and there are films, look at the Transformer films, that are critic proof. Suicide Squad to a certain degree has been critic proof. Batman v Superman to maybe a lesser degree was a little critic proof, because it did do moderately well. But we've got to have some better press and vibe surrounding these DCU films, because there just isn't any, man. It's just, and I know people don't like to hear that, but there's just no positive buzz for these films. And I know some folks chalk it up as bias, and then you go to the extreme, and then with the nonsense about conspiracies and this agenda against DC films. But That's just the fact of the matter.
And the problem is, Bill, they're on a DC Comics-centric Facebook page, and they have their ilk. Everybody's on the comment threads, and they're all talking about the conspiracies, and it's all bullshit, and how much they love the film, and look, it's crossing 600 million, F everybody. Guys, that's not what this is about. We've said this. We've beat this drum. It's just not. I don't care who you talk to. I don't care how much of someone you might respect that has a different point of view on this. I'm just telling you, if I've ever been right about anything, and I rarely am, I'm telling you, damn it, I'm right about this. It's just not enough. It's not enough for these films to have this exuberant extended universe that people and audiences are craving and interested in, and that's the problem right now. And so what all this boils down to is what is the future for Ben Affleck and his Batman film. And again, he is probably taking a legitimate break, even if those films perform like they were supposed to. But with everything going on, I can't help but think he's probably paying close attention. I mean, obviously he is, but I'm talking about in terms of his future decisions of moving forward with this. We shall see. We'll see what happens. But man, I tell you, if Wonder Woman and Justice League have this kind of lukewarm, lackluster response as these previous three, I don't know if it's going to happen.
Exactly, and it would get to the point where, look, Warner Brothers is going to continue on with Batman regardless. So then, we get to the point, would they simply take a few years off and then reboot the thing with a completely different actor and director and continuity? Which is not out of the realm of possibility, but we've seen it happen twice already. You had the Burton Schumacher continuity with 3 actors playing essentially the same Batman, and then that was rebooted with Chris Nolan in the Dark Knight trilogy, and then you have another rebooted Batman with Ben Affleck in his first outing in Batman v Superman. So, I mean, it's not something like it's never happened before, but again, these next 2 films, if they're received well and they do well at the box office, then all of this is a moot point, and they'll be full steam ahead with Ben Affleck and his solo Batman film around 2019, 2020. And we also got to keep in mind, by that time, Ben's going to be pushing 50. And I have no problem with him playing a 50-year-old Batman, but I don't know if he can rip off, 3 sequels or 2 sequels to his first Batman film if he's, in his... By that time, by the 3rd film, he's going to be in his mid to late 50s. So
hey, listen, I know Ben Affleck's not me, but I'm 41. When I was 31, I could run 30. I was running 30, 40 miles a week, lifting weights 3 days a week. Best shape of my life at 31. At 41, I'm in the worst shape of my life. Bad back, need back surgery, bad knee, and again, Ben Affleck's not me by any means. First of all, he's bilingual, and I speak nothing but kitchen Spanish, but I'm envious of that. But he is like Bill just said, you get to a certain age and it's tough. I mean, look at Hugh Jackman right now, just wrapped his last Wolverine film, and there's a good reason for that. I mean, how old is Hugh Jackman now? He's 50, right?
Around there,
yeah. I mean, sure. And and that's, you have to look at stuff like that and look around and say, Hugh Jackman's in incredible shape. He's an amazing Wolverine, but his time has come. And the worst part is, in the case of Ben Affleck's Batman, is that I would hate to see him not have an opportunity to play Batman in the way, let's say, for instance, that Hugh Jackman has played Wolverine in multiple films, most of them great. It's just he's so good in the role. He's so well cast, and he has such passion for it, and I love him in it.
Yes, he's a great Batman, but for me, it's Ben Affleck, the filmmaker, that excites me maybe even more than him playing Batman, because
I agree.
I mean, he is a filmmaker on the same level as Chris Nolan. In fact, you could argue he may be a superior filmmaker to Chris Nolan. He has an Oscar for Best Picture as a director, and he has an Oscar as a writer for Good Will Hunting. So, I love Chris Nolan. That goes without saying, but I'm not trying to compare the two, but I'm just saying he's a director on the level of Nolan or whoever else and I don't know if you could get someone like that to come in and reboot Batman again. So my fingers are crossed, everything works out, and we get that Batman film, because this guy was on my radar as primarily for the director of the Batman series after Chris left, and here he is. So I want to see it happen, you know.
And man, I mean, like, he's just sitting around just so bummed out that BVS and Suicide Squad, the two films he's played Batman in, just critics just have bashed it. Fortunately, he's not been singled out in any negative way. And in fact, quite the opposite. I've read some reviews. There was one in particular for BVS. It was like poor Affleck's walking around performing and behaving like he's in a Chris Nolan film. And that was pretty harsh for the movie, but it's an unfortunate compliment. But at least even in a review that just bashed BVS, they still took a moment to pull Ben Affleck aside and put him in the spotlight of someone that was actually redeeming about the movie they hated. So we'll see, Bill. But one more time, he's an artist, and this has got to be taking a toll on him artistically and creatively.
Yeah. So real quick, let's just mention now the numbers aren't out as of right now, time we're recording this, but the projections for the Suicide Squad box office, they are out. We know what Friday's numbers were. They're looking at around $20 million box office this weekend, and that's going to put it over $260 million domestic. And I know everybody will say, "Wow, it's only $40 million to go to 300." The people who are the experts at projecting this type of stuff and doing the numbers, the multipliers, and I don't even know all that. You know what I'm talking about, all that stuff that comes with box office prediction. They're still saying it's really going to struggle to get to 300 million domestically, and that's where it's got to get, man. And so, any quick take on that?
You said 600 million was their magic number. What do we have a worldwide number at this point?
Worldwide at this point is, give me 1 second, and I will tell you. It is 490.
Yeah. Basically
$491 million worldwide, and that's not counting this weekend. So
that's not counting
probably.
This weekend. And what's the latest on? And I know it might not make that big of an impact, but when we're counting pennies right now, like we are, 5 or 10 million more could make a difference. What's the word on China? Did this ever get released in China?
No, it's not going to China.
It's not going for sure. Okay, that's so weird. Okay.
So it's probably, as we speak, over 500 million worldwide. So again, it's going to be a struggle to get to the 600 million mark. So I hope it does, man.
And for those of you that, and I'm not trying to insult anyone's intelligence. I'm talking specifically to a person that genuinely just doesn't follow numbers for films. It sounds on the surface, well, it's been open now for 3 weeks. It's hit 500. A rationale could be by the fourth week it'll cross it, but that's just not how it works because the drop-offs continue to become more and more significant.
Big time. And then let's hope it gets to where it needs to go. It's only going to help.
I'm going to, and this is beating a dead horse, but just in case there's people that are listening for the first time or haven't listened in a while or whatever, or just to put some positive spin, because I know that there's going to be some people that are going to just be hammering us online over this stuff. I want to walk through just a couple things real quick. 20 seconds. Man of Steel, I really like it. In fact, it's my favorite DCU film to date. I like it a lot. And the things
I'm with you on that. It's my favorite DCEU film. Yes.
And the things I didn't like about it at the end, I will give Zack Snyder a lot of credit. Retroactively were fixed in BVS. I thought all that was brilliant, placing Bruce Wayne in Metropolis. I did. I love that about BVS, and then in turn liked it about Man of Steel. I liked BVS. I think I do like the extended version a little better. I think that has grown on me to the point where I think my flimsy B is probably a strong B with that release. I like it, but I get all the complaints, but I don't get the hate, right? But I do like it. Suicide Squad I've now seen twice. I haven't seen it in 3D yet. I just wanted to see it in 3D, so I just wanted to say that out loud. And I stand by my review on BOF. C+. A lot of potential, great characters. Want to see more. I love Jared Leto's Joker. I love Harley Quinn. I want to see more of them. I love Will Smith's Deadshot. Never thought I would say that, but I do. I love the cast, and so I want to see more of these characters. I love Gal Gadot, and Bill, you've met her. Put it on the record. How do you pronounce it?
I believe it's Gal Gadot.
I just call her Goddess because she's amazing. Anyway.
Yeah, she's very nice.
Yes, she's not
attractive woman.
Not bad for the eyes. But And I love her, and so I'm excited about Wonder Woman. I'm not really excited about Justice League. I'm just not, but I'll certainly go see it. I'm excited about Aquaman, like just the character. That's my favorite thing about that Justice League teaser is him, which is funny. So there's my recap of the DCU, so people don't think I'm some hater. We're talking about the reality of reviews, of box office, of studio expectations, of how some of these artists are probably that are accomplished, like Ben Affleck. Nothing against Henry Cavill. I love him in the role. I hope to God that he gets a Superman sequel. Rumors are that he is. We'll see. I hope he does. But he's not in the same position in his career as Affleck. Cavill could do lackluster Superman films for the rest of his life, meaning lackluster from the standpoint of box office expectations and reviews, not Rick Shew's personal opinion. All right, so I want to make sure that we differentiate that. He could do those forever and cash in, and you know what? If I were in his shoes, I would too. Ben Affleck doesn't have to do that. And there's a point with him, like we stated earlier, where he's at a stage in his career as an artist, as a creative tour de force, and it makes me nervous about the future of his Batman because of the reactions of these films.
Let me ask you one real quick, going out because you mentioned how much you like Jared Leto's Joker. What do you make of all this talk of him being upset with Warner Brothers and David Ayer with cutting a lot of his scenes? And someone said, I read, and I don't know how legit it is, that he had said he felt like he was tricked into accepting the role. Any thoughts on that?
Well, and we had some email exchanges on that, Bill, between our little inner circle, and we all joking with each other. The sources that I was getting that stuff from are garbage sources. I follow a lot of garbage sources online.
Yes, you do. I've been talking to you about that.
Well, politically and everything. And a lot of it is kind of knowing your enemies.
Yeah.
Knowing the garbage.
Yeah. I got you.
Right. It is. It truly is. It just. I mean, I've got family and friends that are on Facebook that are in that same boat. But anyway, I digress. But sometimes there are some. Doesn't mean that everything that some of these sites report is bullshit. It just doesn't. And I like to kind of dig into some of the stuff. 98% of it is clickbait crap. But when you get reports on multiple sources that talk about, and I don't mean the thing with telling Warner Brothers to F off. I'm talking about at a 30 Seconds to Mars concert, him ranting on stage about being tricked. This was not.
Is that for real?
Well,
that really happened?
And let me just say this. That's something that I said, you know what, that could be true. He's an eccentric guy, and he's an unapologetic, rebellious guy. But we're also living in the age of cell phones, and I would just think that if he did say that at a concert, particularly if it was a rant, that somebody would have that on film.
The only thing I've seen him say on record is that there were some of the Joker scenes he filmed that did not make the final cut, and he would hope that they would come to the light of day at some point. Maybe, like we said, I think last week, maybe they'll do an extended cut of Suicide Squad as well, like they did for BBS.
Yeah, I think at the end of the day, he's probably, just like we've been painting this picture about Affleck, Jared Leto's probably annoyed and bothered and disappointed by the reaction of this film by critics. Now, whether or not he's pissed off at Warner Brothers, I don't know. Maybe, maybe not. But I don't believe the reports, no, because I think they would have more traction at this point.
I think he's also said he's excited about playing the Joker again, particularly in a Batman film. So I think we'll see more of Jared Leto's Joker.
I hope so.
I hope so.
I don't get the hate about him. It's just, hey, look, I appreciate everyone suddenly going back to Heath Ledger's Joker and using that as some kind of reference. Believe me, we always should hold the Joker up to a high standard in terms of whoever takes on that role, because by virtue of the character itself that we have known and loved, that I grew up with him in the comics and Cesar Romero. So the dichotomy of the Joker that I knew growing up was pretty radically different. And then you get into Jack Nicholson, then you get into the 90s comics and mid 80s comics and things like that. It's a dynamic character. But when you have a performance like Heath Ledger's Joker in The Dark Knight, it's legendary. And I get that frame of reference, but that's why I like Jared Leto's Joker so much, is because he took on a role, he had the balls, the audacity to do it, and he pulls it off, and he makes it his own. I for one, love his Joker, and again, using Ledger as a reference for my opinion of it. So to the haters out there that don't like Leto's Joker, that's strange to me, but to each of their own. Well, hey, Bill, since we're here and we're wrapping this up here pretty soon, we might as well talk about briefly the Adam West, Burt Ward reunion animated trailer real quick. Why not? All right.
Yeah, we won't get into it that much because I do want to give Ryan and Justin a chance. They're both excited to talk about it. So I will say that it was. I'm very much looking forward to this project. My only quibble, and it's petty, I guess, in some regards, but Mr. West sounds very old in that trailer, and the fact he is old. I mean, he's almost 90 years old. He's apparently in great health, but I mean, there's just no getting around when you're 90-ish. You sound 90-ish, and I guess I'm just gonna have to overlook it because it just, that was my first Batman, and he just doesn't sound like he did 50 years ago. Which, I mean, Jesus, I don't sound like I did 50 years ago. That's because I was 1 year old, but that's a completely different conversation. But I mean, you know what I'm saying. Well,
the good news is, to offset that, is Frank Oz is going to do the 900-year-old Yoda voice for Alfred. That was just a joke.
Okay.
Like Alfred's going to be 900. That way,
okay,
that way the 90-year-old Batman.
Yes.
We were discussing that on the email, and you're right. Out of respect for our guys that are very passionate about this, we'll keep it brief. But I, for one, am excited about it, and quite frankly, I think it's great that they didn't edit their voice. I would have been disappointing if they did. I think it's fun to hear them as they are now. It's a tongue-in-cheek thing anyway.
I know, but Burt Ward sounds almost the same as he did.
Yeah.
And he's got to be in his 60s at least, if not older.
Yeah.
Is
it just me, or does him and what's the guy that played Beaver Cleaver? What's his name?
Oh, Jerry Mathers.
Jerry Mathers. Were those two guys separated at birth? Look at them now as adults. They're the same person.
I can get that. They do.
Jerry Mathers and Burt Ward are
as 60-something-year-old adults. They do look quite a bit alike. That's true.
But anyway, so I'm curious to see, and we'll get more into this, but I'm curious to see who's going to play if Penguin and Joker, Riddler are in it. Obviously, Frank Gorshin and Cesar Romero and the great legendary Burgess Meredith, a.k.a. Mickey, are all dancing with the clouds these days. So be interesting to see if they do bring those guys in, who they have on the voices. But
yeah, all right. We're going to talk more about this.
I'm looking forward to it. It's going to be fun.
We're all looking forward to it. All right, so I'll let announcer Rachel take us out. But Rick, anything you want to plug real quick?
No. You're going to be producing a political podcast for me, which has nothing to do with this, but I will at least plug it for those that might be interested once we get it going. And beyond that, nothing. And there's my 2-year-old, so she's going to plug in. She's going to take us out. She's going to take us out, Bill. All right.
She did take us out.
Take us out.
All right.
All right, guys. Thanks for listening.
We'll catch you next time.
Thanks for listening to the Batman on Film podcast, a proud member and sponsor of the Batman Podcast Network, BatmanPodcastNetwork.com. You can listen to the podcast via iTunes, Google Play Music, Stitcher, Spreaker, and wherever good podcasts like this one can be found. Follow Jett on Twitter at Batman on Film and on the BOF Facebook fan page at facebook.com/Jett.BatmanOnFilm. Email Jett via Jett@Batman-on-Film.com. Follow Rick on Twitter at ShewRick and on Facebook at Facebook.com/BOFShew. For Jett, Rick, the BOF Roundtablers, Justin and Ryan, I'm announcer Rachel. Thank you and good night.